Teleportation wasn't just an advantage, it was a military revolution, and Mark's inner circle led the charge. Each of them was responsible for leading a team of operatives trained in using the tech for logistics, infiltration, and strategic movement. The teleportation force had grown into one of the strongest divisions within the Resistance, allowing covert supply movement across continents, instant tactical repositioning in simulated battles, global intelligence gathering without detection. The Greys wouldn't know where the Resistance was, because they wouldn't be able to track something that never stayed in one place. Anti-gravity bracelets, the next evolution in combat. Teleportation was one thing. But now, they were floating, jumping impossible heights, moving heavy objects effortlessly, and even swimming through the air. The anti-gravity bracelets weren't just game-changing tools, they were potential weapons. Mark and his team pushed the limits, exploring ways to modify them for combat. Gravity distortion fields, temporarily pulling enemies into floating chaos, rendering them defenseless. High-speed evasive jumps, turning soldiers into near-unstoppable fighters, capable of dodging attacks in ways no enemy could predict. Force-based enhancements, allowing Resistance members to lift, deflect, and weaponized physical objects without mechanical assistance. Their investigation into weaponizing anti-gravity had only just begun, but already the possibilities were limitless. Mark and his inner circle were no longer ordinary. They had mastered technology beyond what any civilization on Earth had ever known. They had full access to silver advancements, far beyond what even the military could handle. Every member of the Resistance spent countless hours in the simulator. And now? They weren't just preparing for war. They were redefining the battlefield, ensuring that when the time came, Earth wouldn't just fight back. It would win. The Resistance had spent years preparing for the invasion, securing alliances, perfecting weaponry, and building the infrastructure needed to fight. But the one thing keeping Earth safe, the Silver's time distortion field, was now in grave danger. The Greys had finally detected something off, something subtle but suspicious in the fabric of Earth's temporal flow. They weren't certain yet, but they were cautious. And when the Greys were cautious, they tested. Far beyond Earth's orbit, one of the Greys' scouting ships launched a test probe, a device designed to emit an experimental pulse aimed at disrupting the Silver's time distortion field. The pulse was small by Grey standards, just a test, a subtle ripple in the stream of time. But if it worked, the distortion would collapse. And if the distortion collapsed, the invasion would begin far sooner than expected. Inside the command chamber of the Silver's ship, an alarm rippled through the control panels, sending urgent warnings across the displays. Silver One's voice came through the Resistance's comm channel, its tone sharp, urgent. An anomaly has been detected, a distortion pulse, originating from a Grey scouting vessel. We must act immediately. Mark's stomach tightened. This was not good. Morris leaned forward, scanning the encrypted data feeds, his expression darkening. They're testing us. They haven't figured it out completely, but they suspect something is off. Miss Gooby frowned, already calculating the worst-case scenario. If their pulse works, we lose our time advantage. The war starts sooner than expected. Mark clenched his fists. Then we stop it now. The Silvers deployed a countermeasure, launching a modulated energy field to intercept the probe before it could send data back to the Greys. But the pulse had already been fired, and it reached Earth. A tremor rippled through the distortion field, a brief crack in the seamless temporal equilibrium that had protected Earth for years. Jason, watching the sensors, cursed under his breath. That was too close. Silver 2 spoke next, its voice laced with urgency. We have stabilized the disruption. However, if the Greys detect the interference, they will send stronger pulses. Valerie exhaled, shaking her head. So we either stay hidden or prepare to fight sooner than expected. Ben glanced at Mark. Guess that means you need a plan. Mark thought fast. If this probe had revealed anything, the Greys would follow up with a stronger pulse next time. One powerful enough to break Earth's protections entirely. Unless they convinced the Greys that nothing unusual was happening here. Mark met Morris's eyes, both of them thinking the same thing. "We need to counteract suspicion," Mark said. Morris nodded. "Make Earth look exactly as expected. No technological anomalies, no unexplained data shifts, nothing that raises further alarms." Miss Gooby stepped forward. "We can mask time distortions as natural planetary fluctuations, solar interference, gravity wells, magnetic field distortions." Silver 3 approved. "That will reduce detection probability." Joe exhaled. "And if it doesn't?" Mark's expression hardened. "Then we start the war on our terms, not theirs." The Resistance had expected to have few more years to prepare. But now, they might have months. And in that moment, Mark knew, this was the true beginning of the fight for Earth, and they were running out of time. For years, the Resistance had worked in secret, ensuring that no signals, no anomalies, no leaks would reveal their movements to the Greys. But now, things were changing. The infiltrators embedded in Earth's governments, military forces, and research institutions had begun noticing irregularities, patterns that didn't align with natural planetary activity. It started with astrophysicists and theoretical mathematicians, the kinds of minds that studied the mechanics of time and space. Some of them began noticing distortions in satellite readings, tiny, imperceptible shifts that suggested something was manipulating Earth's temporal field. At first, they chalked it up to equipment malfunctions. Then, they ran independent tests, and the anomalies remained. If a handful of scientists were curious, that wasn't a problem. But if too many started asking questions, that would become dangerous. Then came the second irregularity. High-ranking military forces began experiencing encrypted data malfunctions. Secure operations, typically protected by the world's most advanced firewalls, started behaving erratically. Messages appearing in the wrong servers, timestamps misaligning, classified communications failing to transmit properly. It was subtle, but enough for cybersecurity teams to raise concerns. To the Resistance, it was nothing more than minor interference from the Silver's time distortion field. But to infiltrators watching behind the scenes, it was a red flag. And once security forces began their investigations, it was only a matter of time before the Greys were alerted. The final irregularity came from space itself. Earth's satellites, typically used for weather tracking, global positioning, and deep space observation, began picking up odd signals, fragments of unknown energy signatures. Several research facilities logged the disturbances. They ran tests, compared readings, trying to find a logical explanation. When they found none, they turned to government authorities, seeking further analysis. And that was when the infiltrators took notice. At precisely 3:27 a.m., Mark, Gooby, and Morris received a direct telepathic message from the Silvers. They are beginning to suspect. If the anomalies continue, the Greys will investigate. Mark tightened his grip on his comm device, his thoughts racing. The world was waking up to the hidden war, but the wrong people were noticing first. Morris leaned back, exhaling sharply. "We need to bury these findings, make them look like glitches, environmental interference, human error." Miss Gooby nodded, already formulating a strategy. "If we don't, the infiltrators will escalate their reports, and then the Greys will come faster than planned." Mark clenched his fists. Time was running out. And the war? It was closer than ever before. This was the moment the Resistance had dreaded. Because once the Greys confirmed their suspicions, Earth would no longer be waiting for war. Earth would be in it. For 18 years, the Resistance had thrived in the shadows, growing stronger, smarter, and more dangerous to the Greys than ever before. They had avoided detection. They had manipulated the world's systems without leaving traces, recruited global leaders without suspicion, and hidden their technology so well that no infiltrator had ever come close to exposing them. And yet, the Greys had finally outplayed them. It was Morris's worst nightmare. Not because he didn't expect it, but because he had spent nearly 2 decades ensuring that it never happened. The security protocols were airtight, or so they thought. Every recruit, every ally, Every high-ranking member of the Resistance had to pass an electrical exposure test, a simple but effective way of detecting grey infiltrators, since their alien technology glitched momentarily when exposed to Tesla coil charges. For 18 years, it had worked flawlessly, until it didn't. The grey infiltrator was different, a new variant, designed with adaptive biology, able to pass every test Morris had put in place. The spy had walked among them, gathering intel, feeding critical secrets back to the Greys without a single glitch in detection. And when the Silvers intercepted a cryptic transmission to deep space, one encrypted so well that only a Grey could have sent it, they knew. They had been discovered. For years, the Resistance had debated the day they would have to go public. It was a last resort, a step too dangerous to take unless absolutely necessary. The plan had always been to win the war before the world ever knew it was happening, to keep humanity blissfully ignorant while they fought from the shadows. But now they didn't have a choice. The Silvers gathered with Mark, Morris, Miss Gooby, Joe, Martha, Valerie, Sophie, Jason, and Ben, all the most trusted minds in the Resistance. Silver One's voice rang through the chamber. Earth can no longer be protected by secrecy alone. The invasion timeline has accelerated. We must act now. Miss Gooby folded her arms, exhaling sharply. So, we're telling the world aliens exist? Morris sighed, rubbing his temples. Yep. Great. Can't wait for that press conference. Mark was silent for a long moment, processing everything. Then he stood, his voice steady. We capture every identified Grey infiltrator immediately. No delays. No mercy. Joe nodded. We need to take control of their global communication network. If we let them twist the narrative, humanity will turn on itself before the Greys even arrive. Valerie frowned. And how exactly do we tell the world that their governments have been compromised for years? Mark glanced at Morris. We do it our way, Morris smirked. Big, bold, unforgettable. Within 6 hours, the Resistance executed a worldwide operation, capturing every suspected Grey infiltrator embedded in key positions. Then came the message. Using hacked satellite feeds, emergency broadcast systems, and hijacked global news networks, the Resistance interrupted every single screen on Earth. Phones, televisions, public billboards, corporate terminals, all of them flickered to the same message. The world had no choice but to watch. A live transmission. Mark stood at the center of the feed, flanked by Morris and Valerie. My name is Mark Ferris, he said, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. And I need you to listen carefully. Because today, everything changes. Mark stood before the camera, dressed not as a soldier, not as a political leader, but as a man carrying the burden of truth. Behind him, Morris, Gooby, and Valerie stood silent. This wasn't just another speech. It was a rallying call, one meant to ignite the entire human race into action. You have lived under the illusion of peace. But peace was never real. It was a distraction, a fabricated quiet before the storm. The Greys are coming. And when they arrive, they will not ask for your surrender. They will take everything. Your cities, your resources, your families. We have seen what they do to worlds like ours. We will not let Earth fall like they did. This is your moment. Humanity stands at the edge of extinction, and the only question left is simple. Will you fight? Will you defend the world that belongs to you? Will you protect your children, your future, your species? We cannot afford to let our differences divide us. The Greys do not care about your nationality, your gender, your race. They do not care if you are rich or poor, young or old. They will come for all of us, and if we stand divided, we will fall divided. But if we fight together, if we prepare, if we rise, if we stand as one, Earth will be the first world in history to resist and win. We will do what no species has done before. We will reclaim the right to live. 2 years. That is all we have. Choose now. Images of classified reports, hidden technological advancements, suppressed discoveries flashed across the screen. Science that could have advanced civilization by hundreds of years had been stalled on purpose. Leaders had made decisions that defied logic. Wars had been fueled without explanation, and now the proof was undeniable. We have fought this war in the shadows, hoping to buy humanity time to prepare. But that time is up. The screen flickered again, showing the deep space transmission, the intercepted warning that had been sent to the Grey Fleet. Across the world, people froze, in offices, in homes, on the streets, in military bases. There was no denying what had just been revealed. This was not some rogue conspiracy, not some leaked document twisted for political gain. This was a truth too massive to ignore. And now the human race had a new question to answer. Would they rise, or would they fall? Now, the Greys will return in force, millions upon millions, an armada so vast that it could block out the sky itself when they arrived. The Silvers had estimated 2 years before the invasion began anew. 2 years to prepare, to mobilize, to turn survival into victory. 2 years before Earth faced its final stand. The truth echoed across the planet for those who had never known, never suspected, never believed in forces beyond their world. The truth struck like thunder. The denial came instantly, the fear following close behind. But with every image, every document, every piece of unshakable proof delivered through the broadcast, humanity could no longer ignore reality. The broadcast switched to showing several Grey spies' biomechanical mask malfunctioning, revealing scared Greys. Tesla coils messes with the energy field of the Greys' cloaking tech. The resistance was real, the Greys were coming, and Earth was running out of time. The 2-year countdown begins. The world had changed overnight. The awakening had changed everything. No longer was war just a concern for soldiers or those in the resistance. Now, it was everyone's war. Every government scrambled to restructure, adjusting policies overnight, shifting priorities toward defense and survival. Military forces redirected resources, moving away from regional conflicts and national interests, pooling everything into global war preparations. Civilian groups organized, communities transformed into training centers, cities became hubs of mobilization, every single person given a role, whether in combat, logistics, medical support, engineering, or intelligence. And the most defining shift of all, there was no longer a choice. The universal draft. For the first time in human history, every person between the ages of 12 and 80 was summoned for training. There were no exceptions. Children were taught survival skills, navigation, evasion, basic combat techniques suited to their age and ability. Teenagers underwent full military training, learning weaponry, strategy, and hand-to-hand combat, preparing to join active forces if needed. Adults were assigned roles based on skill and aptitude: soldier, medic, technician, engineer, strategist, resistance fighter. Elders were put into advisory, logistical, or intelligence roles, their experience vital for planning, coordination, and morale. This wasn't just a war for soldiers anymore. This was humanity fighting as one.